My name is Mary Dealy. I'm a nurse practitioner. I own a cosmetic dermatology practice right outside of Boston called BeautoxEtc. And I've been doing this for about 5 years. One of the injectors that is a mentor for me, Lori Roberts out of California, she had great things to say about Kaylee. And I really was ready to scale my business. So I wasn't sure. There's so many people who say, I can help you. I'm a business consultant. I can do this. But I really wanted to be very careful about who I started to work with. And I thought I would just dip my toe in the water by starting with the CTS, listen to the podcasts. They made sense to me. They made me work harder than I have ever worked before, and they made me think differently. So the first thing that Kaylee helped me do was to find my proprietary method, which is key when you're trying to identify yourself in the market. That took about 6 weeks, but now that we have it all figured out, we're going to see what the next steps are. The biggest mindset shift is going from somebody who's self-employed as a single injector and thinking about myself more as a business owner, which means that I really have to step back from the injecting a little bit and think about things that are not easy for me to think about. Like the business aspect of my business and how I'm going to grow it. And it's so much more complicated than learning injections. But I think any solo practitioner, if they want to continue in this environment, they need to be thinking about things like that. First thing I'm doing is really integrating my proprietary method into all my social media and sort of making myself stand out in that way from my competition. And from there, I'm just going to probably dig deep and do some more work with Kaylee around what's the next step for me in terms of scaling the business, bringing more people in. What you think is the next step is not always the actual next step. So I think the one-on-one time I got with Kaylee, talking about my specific issues, my specific business was very valuable. I would definitely recommend working with Kaylee because, as I said before, there are a lot of people that will say they're business consultants, and that's kind of a generic word. But what does it really mean? But I felt like working with Kaylee, I think she really gets it. And specifically, she works with aesthetic practices, which is huge. So for those two reasons, I would recommend her. Think that listening to the podcast over and over and over and over again was key for me, and also taking copious notes and filling out the workbook. The workbook was actually very convenient to go through the podcast and write down things. It's a lot of intellectual work and it's exhausting, but that really kept me on track. And listening to the podcast over and over again really helped me cement the ideas in my mind as well.